Insurrection used to mean one thing: violence against the government itself. Men with guns in the halls of power, glass breaking where laws were written, force trying to finish what words could not. That was the old definition, brutal and simple. But listen carefully to how the word is used today. Now it's aimed at using our voices as American citizens with empty hands, as neighbors standing in daylight, not asking to rule, just asking to be heard. When the meaning of a word shifts, power shifts within. Because if protest is treated like revolt, then fear can be treated like order. And when fear becomes policy, history doesn't argue, it remembers. We've seen this before. This isn't prophecy, it's repetition for 2.5 centuries. This country survived on restraint, a republic built on distrust of power, slowed by design. Because certainty without limits has always been dangerous. They divided authority: Article 1, the legislative branch; Article 2, the executive branch; and Article 3, the judicial branch. Each accountable to consent, restraint, and responsibility. Not because they feared the people, but because they feared power without restraint. You don't cool a fire with gasoline. You don't keep the peace behind a screen. When faces vanish and orders descend, power stops listening and force pretends. We've seen the shape before in history, when fear wore masks for security. If fear is the rule and force is the reply, then power itself crossed the line. Something shifted in the language we use. When protest became threat, when patience became obstruction, when questioning authority became disloyalty, when fear stopped being a warning and started being a strategy. They call it order, but order enforced by fear is not peace. They call it strength, but strength that silences is not stability. If disagreement is labeled treason, then power, not people, has crossed the line. Raise your voice while it is still legal. Silence is not neutral, it is how erosion begins. If force replaces representation, if command replaces consent, then power itself is the insurrection. You don't cool a fire with gasoline. You don't keep the peace behind a screen. When faces vanish and orders descend, power stops listening and force pretends. We've seen the shape before in history, when fear wore masks for security. If fear is the rule and force is the reply, then power itself crossed the line. The Constitution is not an inconvenience, it is the guardrail of order and restraint. Between authority and abuse of the power borrowed, the military is not governance, it is a final boundary they will be called to control. We the people. And if law enforcement becomes the law itself, then who restrains their power when it decides it's afraid of we the people? History does not collapse in one night, it justifies itself inch by inch, exception by exception, until what was unthinkable feels necessary. They call it safety, we feel control. They call it resolve, we feel the cost. A republic is not conquered from outside, it is the irresponsibility from within. When intimidation replaces trust and obedience replaces citizenship. You don't cool a fire with gasoline. You don't keep the peace behind a screen. When faces vanish and orders descend, power power stops listening and force pretends. We've seen the shape before in history, when fear wore masks for security, when order spoke louder than law could stand, and silence was forced by the state's own hand. You don't heal a nation this way. You don't calm the streets with troops on display. If fear is the rule and force is the reply, then power itself crossed the line. And if power protects power in plain sight, while voices are treated as threats tonight, then name it honestly, don't twist the word. Power itself is the insurrection we heard. Red against blue, the elite against the majority, neighbor against neighbor. That's how empires fracture, not by enemies at the gate, but by leaders who confuse urgency with destiny. A divided nation is easier to control. Chaos becomes useful for the power. Silence becomes valuable to the powerful. And the world watches as credibility burns in real time. This is not a call to violence, it is a call to conscience, not rebellion. Demand accountability, not chaos. Demand consent and accountability. If we the people are labeled the threat, then the definition of the Constitution has failed, and history is not done writing. You don't cool a fire with gasoline. We've seen this shape in history. If fear is the rule and force replies, then power itself crossed the line. Power protects power in plain sight. Power itself is the insurrection. Tonight.